Dear Professor Landsbergis, my colleague, Mrs. Ines Vaider, dear members of Lithuanian Parliament, everyone who today have time to listen to this very important conference. I would follow the brilliant speech made by Professor Landsbergis on the basic values and why past is important for today and for the future. But I will concentrate on what we are doing in the Parliament, because to bring together two diverging views which dominate European narrative of history is one of the tasks which we have to realize. And it is not an easy task, because when you look to the map, how the Iron Curtain divided Europe, then you see that for more than 50 years, the European history has been written without Eastern Europe and Baltic states. And this stereotype is still alive. 20 years we will celebrate in the December since Soviet Union collapsed. But we still have to discuss with the Europeans whether the Soviet totalitarianism, communist totalitarianism, was as terrible as a Nazi regime. And this is one of the problems what I see as essential in Europe, because after the World War II, Central and Eastern European nations, we were isolated from the common space of values and justice of the rest of Europe. And we did not participate in the process of restoration of historical justice, and we were not able to contribute to Europe's historical, legal and political debates. We brought this contribution only after collapse of Soviet Union and since 2004 in full voice, being members of European Union and NATO. I have deep conviction that Europe will not be reunited unless it is able to have an honest and thorough debate on the crimes committed by totalitarian regimes in the 20th century. Why? Because the dominant historical experience of Western Europe was Nazism. Central and Eastern European countries, we experienced both communism and Nazism, and it lasted for almost 50 years. And that is an effort what Europe has to do. Europe has to recognize this double legacy of totalitarianism, Nazism and Stalinism, as its common legacy. There are very precise steps what Europe has to take. First of all, Europe has to recognize all historical aspects of modern Europe. And for this it is necessary to, first of all, to formulate a common approach to Nazism and to totalitarian communism. Then clearly to define the attitude towards the crimes of totalitarian communism, to ensure the continuity of the comprehensive reassessment of political, historical and legal aspects of the crimes of totalitarian communism, and also to ensure a clear international legal framework which lacks until this current day for free access to archives. All archives, those of security services, of secret police and intelligence agencies. They contain information about totalitarian crimes. And then, based on that recognition of truth and remembrance, in order to lay the foundation for reconciliation, the member states of European Union, they should first to ensure equal treatment and non-discrimination principles for the victims of all totalitarian regimes. Then it is important to honor the memory of the victims And it is also important to remember those who actively opposed totalitarian rule. And one of the tasks which we still are facing is to condemn the crimes of totalitarian regimes, to condemn politically and also legally. Especially, I underline legally. And then European member states have to declare August 23rd as European Day of Remembrance for the victims of Stalinist and Nazism. And this is something we should be grateful to our colleague Ines Vaidere, because European Parliament adopted a declaration to recommend to do that. And then our group was established. We wrote a letter to all speakers of the Parliament. Only few answered. There are 5 countries where that Day of Remembrance is inscribed in its official calendar. For justice, it is important to condemn the perpetrators of these crimes and also to bring them to justice. And then, if we are speaking about what European institutions, Commission, Council and Member States should do, then they have to promote comprehensive assessment of European history. We are politicians. The assessment can be done only by historians. The way how to do could be preparation of national reports on the crimes of totalitarianism, also research and appropriate preservation of historical memory, the strengthening of the teaching of European history, education of the public on the crimes of totalitarian regimes. And one of the success stories is the establishment of a platform of European memory and consciousness recently in Prague. What I consider as very important, that not only we in Latvia or you in Lithuania or other states, that we do research in our countries and understand what actually happened, what is historical truth, but that we create a network and cooperation among national research institutes specializing in totalitarianism. That would allow us to understand better what is particular in our countries and what is typical for communist totalitarianism in general. And then what I see as an important symbolical gesture to construct a memorial for the victims of all totalitarian regimes in Brussels. If the Brussels is administrative capital of European Union, as we all agreed, then that is the place where the victims have to be honored. And then I also would suggest that under the auspices of European Union, maybe even European Parliament, a permanent governmental forum or conference on the crimes of totalitarian regimes is established. Such task force in the 90s was established on Holocaust, and it was very successful, bringing deeper understanding on the crimes committed at the time by Nazis and what are the processes currently in the Europe. We need the same for the communism.